We are live. Wait for someone to jump in here. Well, so I'm gonna get started. So, for starters, if you are new, my name is Duran Conrad. I am the lead paranormal investigator to Dead Serious Investigations. I am also a demonologist and I study ufology and many other things like ancient culture, ancient history, um, things like that. So, what I want to cover today on this podcast episode is ETs, and not just ETs, but ET souls, connections with ET souls and angelic and the divine. So, there's a lot of things that I'm going to want to cover about ETs because when you think about ETs, you think, most people would think just your typical gray with huge almond shaped eyes, tall, slender, but it's much more vast than that. There's also human ETs um, that look almost identical to us with very little differences. And there's ETs that are very different, some that you'd least suspect. So, and this goes for craft too. You got physical craft and non-physical craft. Physical craft capable of traversing through a non-physical plane, like the astral realm even. And they use this so that way they could traverse from place to place without being detected. Um, so I noticed that someone has jumped in. So can you hear me? Can you hear me well? Is my mic working? I'm a bit late because I had some technical difficulties with my my StreamYard, but I got it going. Finally got it together. It crashed on me, so I had to literally shut down my computer and reboot it back up. But we're back in action. We're rolling. We're live. All right. So, now as you can see, I have a light installed for Pam now. So now Pam has lighting in there, and I have it set to green, obviously for the topic because what we're about to discuss. So I felt like it was fit for the moment. So, um, for starters, I would like to discuss my first contact with ETs, and it goes as far back as about 9 years old. And when this happened, I woke up and I felt the urge to have to walk to my bedroom window. And so I started climbing down the ladder to my bunk bed. And as I was climbing down, there's this bright light beaming through the blinds of my window. And my bedroom window would be facing tool shed that was on the side of our house. And I thought maybe my dad was working out there, and I didn't know what time it was. I wasn't paying attention to what time it was. I thought my dad maybe was working in the shed late at night, maybe had a big spotlight on. Come to find out that when I approached the window, and I start cracking open a blind, I see some type of silhouette figure moving around out there, but I can't make out what it is at all. I can't even tell what shape it is. I just see something kind of moving around back and forth back there. And but it's so bright I can't see. It's just like a purgatory of light. But as I'm watching this, it only took a moment, and that fraction of the moment of, seeing this figure moving back and forth out there, I realized how small it was, and there's no way it could have been my dad. Uh, this figure was really it was really close to my height, or maybe even shorter. And we had just outside my bedroom window, there were these boards that were kind of stacked, and they were like, I would say 2 by 4s, but they were really long and they were kind of stacked. So, and it sounded like something was kind of walking around these boards. And just the sounds of them, it sounded like the feet was messing around on the boards, like it was climbing on them and walking across them, and then would climb off of it. But anyways, that little bit of a moment, it was this figure, this silhouette type figure moving around and making that racket. And all of a sudden, though, this being comes up to the window and like face to face, super close. And it looks like a little child. But what I see is something. This is how I could describe it of my memory and how I described it as a child. It looked like a child, but the head was a lot bigger and the eyes were much bigger. It had a grayish skin complexion, but almost a peach color, a cross between a peach color and gray. Um, the skin was very smooth, and it did have what looked like these almond-shaped eye lenses. And the reason why I say lenses is because you could actually, if you actually look into those eyes, they are lenses, they are not their eyes. Their eyes are just like ours, but just a little bit larger, almost like a lot larger, actually. Um, but they look just like our eyes. And it put its hand to the window, and the small hand, and it had 4 fingers. So, but when I looked at this thing, I didn't know how to process it as a kid, and the way I processed it was that I was dreaming. It was just a dream that was very elusive, and but it felt really real. I felt everything. Um, and this could have been a parallel experience in an astral projection. The reason why I say that is because there are infinite parallel realities within our reality. So when you are a in a process of astral projection, it is possible for you to astral project between other parallel realities. This could be what happened, but I don't think that was the case. I think that this was an actual physical reaction. However, after I had seen this ET at my window, this is the thing that I know that it really did happen. So, and I think that there was missing time. After I'd face-to-face encounter with this being, I didn't feel any type of malevolent energy, or I didn't feel frightened at all in any way. But I felt fixated on its eyes. So fixated that I could look through the lens and I could see it blinking within the lenses. Um, After the experience, everything went white, including the being I was seeing in front of me. my ears were ringing, both of them, and then I woke up in my bed with my ears still ringing. My ears would ring periodically throughout that day and the day after. That was my proof of that it actually really happened to myself, because I was thinking, okay, I'm up. It was just a dream. But with my ears ringing, I thought otherwise. I really felt like something was actually there in just on the other side of my room, outside my window, looking at me. It actually really happened. Didn't realize until I started seeing these types of beings on TV, and, you know, seeing that other people were actually having these same encounters, or similar at least. So, but I'm not seeing any comments on here, so if anybody is having trouble hearing, just let me know in the chat. Just want to make sure everybody could hear me. Um, so going from there, I have had other physical uh, not reaction, but other physical experiences with extraterrestrials at my childhood house. Um, like for instance, I've seen them in the hallway, I've seen them in my room. Um, and then there's this big gap that happens. When I left that house, there's this big gap of not seeing any physical ETs. However, when I was a teenager, I experienced, in my late teen years, I experienced what looked like a UFO or UAP. Thank you, Wonderlust. Um, what looked like something it was very out of the ordinary. However, I was looking at this, I woke up to it. So what happened is, I fell asleep on the couch in the living room, and right beside me, so the back of the couch is faced to, hey Edna, um, the back of the couch is facing the window, and I'm laying on the couch. I wake up and my eyes look straight to the window. The very first thing I see when I wake up is this really bright flickering star, or I thought was a star. And this star is gradually getting larger. And I'm like, well, that can't be right. That's pretty odd. So I just keep my eyes on it, and I don't want to leave my eyes from it, because I don't want to miss catching a moment that could be. And that's basically what my intuition was telling me, was that this is not a star, this is something else, and I should probably pay attention. So I kept watching the star gradually getting bigger. It felt like I'd say a good 10 to 15-minute stare off with this object in the sky before it actually formed into what I was seeing. So after a while of staring at this star starts to look like it's shape-shifting or something, but it's not really shape-shifting. It's got these rings that are just kind of flying around it, going almost, I don't know what you call those things, but like one of those rides where you get strapped in and there's a bunch of rings and it spins you around. That's what these rings kind of resembled, almost like that. And they were just going around this orb. And that's like the only way I could explain it. But I have sketches. I have a sketch of it that I drew a while back. I'll let you guys take a look and see if maybe any of you seen anything like this in the sky. And what's interesting is that only recently, out of all the years, I've never seen anybody or report anything like this until recently. I came across it online, and this is something recent. And recently, people have been seeing this all of a sudden, and it's crazy because I haven't heard anybody at all bring this up. What's up, Silent Echoes? Thanks for joining. So this is it right here. Okay, this is exactly what I saw, and as you could see, like it was moving around, rotating around this orb, like a plasma energy. And you know that recently we all hear about these mysterious quote drones that have been spotted, and we all know what they really are. And all I could say, because I know that a lot of people are going to bring it up, of asking me what they are. Hi, Flexina. I just got one thing to say is keep an eye out for Dr. Stephen Greer, because he's going to cover everything you need to know about that real soon. So anyways, when I saw this thing in the sky, I was stunned. I was not just stunned, but I couldn't stop staring at it. And because I was afraid that I was, I'm not exactly sure how to spell his name, but I'm sure if you type that in, it'll kind of spell corrected if you Google it, and he should come up, or even type it in YouTube. You should be able to find him. Yeah, so it's been told by a lot of other whistleblowers and insiders that this is the insider that is going to be disclosing a lot of stuff, including Mr. 45 himself. So anyways, this was really compelling to me because I've never encountered a UFO so clear in my life. I've seen questionable things in the sky where I would see stars kind of moving slowly, gradually across the sky, and maybe they could have been satellites. It's a possibility. But this, no, I after I saw this, and it was still there, it was super close. It was this thing was larger than the moon, so it had to have been either super large or it just was really close. Um, I ran over to my parents' bedroom during this time, and I was like, "Mom, you got to see this because I think I'm seeing a UFO." And she's like, "No," like she's like half asleep and stuff. She's like, "No, it's probably just a satellite." And I told her, I said, "That's what I thought." So I was like, "You got to see this." And she ran over to look. It's not there. So of course, you know, very typical that would happen. But I feel like sometimes these things kind of happen because for the moment it wasn't meant for that other individual to see, but that person that originally saw it. I'd never understood that until the recent years. So, and no one, I have never heard any reports. I've type searched it, the area I was living in at that time, trying to look up any kind of records of any documentation of anybody else seeing this object in the sky, and there isn't any. So it really played with my head a little bit, like, but I didn't realize at that time that these craft can manifest and materialize almost like a spirit. So they could exist in the non-physical realm. So exactly, Edna. And so this craft had manifested for my eyes to see. Is just like a spirit. Some people on the scene, on investigation, some people wonder why other investigators won't see something that someone else sees because it wasn't meant for those eyes. It was cut. It was exactly. Hey, what's up, Chastity? Thanks for joining. So, so a lot of this stuff started making sense, like the craft, the the ET visiting me as a child when I was 9, and the on and on experiences. So, it all escalated after that, even more. Um, Later on, it didn't hit me until my 30s, but it really hit me after, I would say, about a little over a year after getting into the paranormal field. But I started realizing that I am a I am a very, very big threat for negative ET groups. Um, and that's exactly why I was visited by many, many demonics as a child. There was a lot of paranormal activity in my childhood house, a lot. My siblings did experience a lot of similar things. Um, but even some of my siblings even say that they've never experienced anything like what I've experienced, but they don't doubt me because there are other family members that I've had living in that house after moving out, and they were experiencing a lot of interesting things, even things that have materialized in the physical. So going from an, an invisible space into a physical space involving things like insects, physical objects just randomly appearing or disappearing, uh, disappearing an item that you desperately need at the moment and just placing it or materializing it in a place that you least suspect it. That's happened to me in the recent years too. Like, I can't get to work because I can't find my car keys, and I always have my car keys on me. I keep them always ready in very specific spots. And of all the places, I find it behind the microwave. I never have it near that area. I never have my keys in even in the kitchen, and it's behind the microwave. Things like that that don't make any sense at all. Oh, Edna, she said Duran was this in Sacramento area. It was. I've had that. Yeah, it happens. Yeah, definitely. Silent Echo says, reminds me of when I found that black tourmaline rock. Yeah, I remember when you were talking about that. And it did happen at a perfect time. Yep. So there's a lot of strange things that happened in that just in that house alone. But a lot of things really kind of stuck with me. And the reason why it stuck with me is because I was a target. I was a target because I was a threat because these things that vibrate at a low space, a lower realm, are threatened by truth seers and people that have a divine role in their life of what they're about exposing things like this. They don't want people to know, so they try to scare me into and veer me into a wrong path. Let's see. I got yeah, yeah, definitely. It's interesting, when you encounter something like that out of nowhere and the timing of finding something like that. It's really interesting. Um, so anyways, um realizing that I was a big threat, and what got me to understand that was I've had a few moments where, for example, I've had a moment that I am very familiar with, and I'm sure many people in the comment sec or in the chat will understand this, is entities that put you in sleep paralysis. And there are ETs that are capable of doing that. And basically almost any ET with a a different state of consciousness has capable of doing this. There's different conscious capabilities that these entities could do. So, um, this is really where it got me, where I knew that I was a threat, and primarily with ET groups. But when was I wouldn't even say visited. Um, when I was disturbed by this tall, I want to say a tall gray, because this thing was about 8 to 9 feet tall. So my ceiling reaches about 8 feet, and I'm waking up in my bed, not capable of moving my arms, my legs, my torso, my neck, or anything. I can move my eyeballs. And when I look at the foot of my bed towards the corner of my room, there is this long, lanky, extraterrestrial looking being in my room. I almost felt like it was mocking what originally visited me as a child, the ET that visited me, but it was really long and lanky, and it looked more like an insect. Um, from at the beginning, I like the second I saw it, I thought it was I was like, oh great, there's a demon from one of my objects in my room right now. And then it really hit me at the moment that this is not a demon. This is something different. And the energy I felt from it was that it was a non-terrestrial entity. Non-terrestrial from our from our planet. This thing was very non-terrestrial. And it was very, like, you could see the bones on its back. It was very skinny, very frail. Like, I felt like I could blow this thing away just with blowing using my breath. So frail. And but I could not move. And this thing had huge eyes. The eyes were almost wrapped around its head. And considering the fact it had a pretty skinny head, but the back of the head was cone shaped. Which is very different from the species that was visited me when I was a kid. And this thing had a long cone head from the back, and it had these long insectoid eyes kind of wrapped around almost. And but when it turned a certain direction, you wouldn't see that cone head, you would just see this oversized head. But when it turned to like a little bit, you start seeing this cone. And but what happened in this experience though was, this was the really interesting part, was as I'm not able of moving at all, not capable of moving my body, and I'm sweating during the process, which is something that I've experienced during sleep paralysis, is I'll sweat a lot, which is very common because not only that you're using a lot of energy to try to even move your body, but this thing is feeding off of you. It's feeding off of you in the moment. And so this thing's literally draining essence from you, based on your fear levels, mainly your fear levels. And so the experience is very overwhelming, it's exhausting, and you will sweat. So most experiences with that, I've end up being drenched in sweat. But during that moment anyways, this entity approaches me really close, and its long, lanky hand that looks like almost as skinny as a broomstick comes over to my body with these long, frail fingers. And like I almost hear like this pulse sound, like boop. like that, and it tried to put its hand and touch me, but when that happened, I felt like everything, like my organs, my skeletal body, my whole physical, like something just felt like it exited my body, and it gave me that falling feeling, and then I woke up. I thought at that moment for like the next week, probably like even the next month after that, I kept having this weird feeling that, you know, it was possible that I was abducted astrally. But then there was another part of me that was saying that I think that I was actually saved from that. And it was my astral body being escaping from the abduction. So preventing it. And that's where I felt like it literally felt like my spirit left my body for a moment. So there's two possible outcomes. But the outcome that makes me feel like it was prevented is because not that long after that, I've experienced this other experience where it was very positive. This involved using meditation. So I got into really heavy practice doing meditation at that time. I'm going to read some of these comments real quick. Okay. Oh, you had sleep paralysis, lucid last night. That's not good. Hi, motocross girl. Um, yeah, lucid. I would recommend putting some less salt under your bed if you continue experiencing those sleep paralysis. Um, oh yeah, silent echoes definitely. They could easily be confused for the paranormal, and that's where it's really important to have discernment to understand what you are experiencing, because your intuition will really help you identify who is coming through, who you're making contact with. You get those senses where you almost get that familiar sense, and these natural psychic senses will really tell you where this thing is really coming from. If it's coming from the astral realm, is it coming from somewhere else, parallel reality, or even another planet, and just visiting you remotely, or even physically there, but they're chameleonized. Uh, Uh, Edna says, I could feel the truthfulness to you when you speak, Duran. I truly believe you. Well, thank you, Edna. And thank you, Silent Echoes. So, so that experience really caught my attention. So I really got heavily into meditating at that time. And also during that time was not that far off of when I got attacked in the bed by a demon too. And I've said in the past that ETs and negative ET groups and demons and devils collaborate very well together. Um, so w- when I started getting into meditation, so here's the thing, and this happens almost every time I meditate, and it doesn't take long. Most of the time that I meditate is usually just before bed, and I like to meditate in a very dark space where you can't see any light, and it helps me because if I have light and I'm meditating, that light I could see through my eye lenses. It'll kind of distract me. So I like it when it's dark, or if I could just cover my eyes in some way where everything's dark. I start getting visions almost, I want to say immediately, but very quickly. and I usually how they'll come in like shimmers of light, like blankets, silver blankets, and they'll kind of just come in like this. And some of them will shape shift and they'll look like a face and dissolve like smoke. Most of the time when I see spirits during this moment, they'll look very unidentifiable, in a sense, because they all would look the same, but I feel that they're all different. And I feel like a lot of them have this universal ghost looking face, like the classic ghost face, um, long mouth, open mouth, big eye canals, very, cheesy kind of, uh, very, very cheesy, I would say, explanations of how they look like, because it almost kind of makes me wonder how people like back then like knew that they looked like this, but I feel like they may have seen something themselves, because it's just weird how because when I recently started seeing these beings with my eyes closed, spirits and ETs, when I do this during meditation, how I would never expect them to look like that, and there's a lot of them that look like that, and the reason why they look like that, and the only reason why they look like that, is because you're not open to them yet. So there's no identifiable face recognition to them yet, because so they all like look like this universal type. Yeah, basically, Edna, that's like exactly right. That's why I'm trying to say it's kind of cheeseball, like the way to describe how it looked. Um, and that's the only way I could think of. Like when it opens its mouth, it'll be a big, wide open mouth, and then the jaw part of it will just detach and dissolve, and then the rest of it will. That's usually how it happens. It'll open its mouth and stretch down, dissolve, and then the rest of it dissolves. And this happens always in the same process. There'll be the shimmery blanket light that comes and goes like a shutter. And some of them go in waves and twist waves. And it's like a silver blanket. And it's interesting like how that'll happen, but that's just how it happens. And then in some cases, especially when involving ETs, I'll get these geometric shapes, and sometimes it'll come in through looking like a kaleidoscope, and there'll be many colors and many shapes, and they'll kind of collide together. And in one instance, this happened when this is a very recent experience, I would say just a couple months ago. And I was calling for the ET groups that I'm connected with. And I asked, can I see you? I haven't seen you in a while. And one of them appeared almost immediately. And it looked exactly like the ETs that always visit me at my doorway. I also want to say this: extraterrestrials don't tend to actually prefer us to actually identify them as alien or extraterrestrials. They prefer to be known as more interstellar beings or just people. But the reason why I use terms like ETs or EBEs is this is more of a term that people in the public are most familiar with. So if you hear me use those terms, that's the only reason why I'm using them. So now when I see these beings, these ETs coming at my doorway, and then I see what I see when I have these visions during either astral projecting or during my meditation, this ET that I saw clear, it almost was solid. It was no longer a translucent being with my eyes closed. I actually saw mouth movement. It had a really small mouth, the big eye canals. But like I said, those eye canals, I always remember that those are just lenses. So I'm seeing this being, and he gives me this really bright smile, but they're kind of bald in the mouth. I don't think they really have teeth. I don't know if they have a need for any teeth. I haven't learned exactly how certain species of ETs work, but it gave me a smile, and I've never been smiled by an ET before. But I already recognized him, and it was a really, really overwhelming feeling of, wisdom and just a lot of love and wisdom from this being. And it was a very bright feeling. And as I was feeling that, I get this big smile with this little mouth. It was really interesting. So, and when he went away, I had called on other beings that I haven't seen in a while, and I've one of those being Archangel Michael. I've seen Archangel Michael before during meditation, and I asked to see if I could see him. So, and Horus and others. When this happened, this was very interesting, and I desperately wanted to let everybody know this because I don't think I've ever covered this. But after the experience with the ET that came up, continued in with this kaleidoscope and all these shapes, and then when the shapes came together, I get a shape that comes in and clicks with another shape, and then another shape clicks in with another shape, and start matching the shapes and fitting in the place. And the shapes all have a piece of a face of each of these beings that I'm calling for. And just before that, though, I did see what looked like blue angel wings, big, huge wings that flapped open like that. And what gave me the impression that this could have been Horus. And, but all these faces all clicked together to all these beings. And there was so much love and wisdom that I was overwhelmed with, and protection. This was a very protective energy that I had that from this visit, and it was absolutely amazing. So I just wanted to make sure I get that on the record and share that with you. Um, so in those situations, with this really comes in the category of also astral visits and astral abductions, and this is the more positive side of those types of experiences. Those experiences, you could experience upgrades, intuitive upgrades, spiritual upgrades. And these, in some abductions that involve negative groups, they could give you downgrades where they actually downgrade you consciously, spiritually, psychically, and really catalyze you, block you, send you in the wrong path. Um, so, all this coming together, that I knew that why I started really understanding why I was getting visited and attacked a lot throughout my life about from these entities, because I was a threat. So, and finding out that I was a star seed, and I'm an ET soul, so this just really collaborated to make a lot of sense. So back to the topic that I was talking about the just after experiencing that experience with that sleep paralysis. So not that long after that, no, before that. So, and this is actually where I really put together this title. Um, you know, before even knowing that I was a star seed, before even knowing anything about even having the idea of being a star seed, I during my first real practices before this sleep paralysis experience, because a lot of this happened because they knew that I was selected for something, but also I had been granted access to an invitation to be a big part of a group. part of the Starseed program that I'm in. And what really made me know that was this experience. It was during the first moments of ever experiencing any type of entities or any angelic visions or anything, any psychic visions with my eyes closed during meditation. So it almost felt like it came naturally, but it happened not that long after doing Dyer Lane for the first time, after working out there on the first investigation. So not that long after that, I had this really very detailed experience. And I've mentioned this on a live a long time ago, but I'm going to explain it again because it really collaborates with what I'm talking about. So at the moment, and this is with not under really know what's going on at the time, versus what I know now. But what happened was, so as I'm meditating, and after a while, I start to see this white dot in the distance in the blackness with my eyes closed. There's no light anywhere possible to come through my eye lenses to be able to distract me in any way to create any kind of light. It's completely dark. When I see this white dot getting larger, but it almost looks three-dimensional as it comes closer, and it's like a cube. And this cube starts rotating counterclockwise. It's rotating like this, and it's got this trail behind it, almost like when you see energy orbs on film, and they'll carry this energetic trail. But this energetic trail, I could see the trail, and it's you could see it, but it's more translucent from what the cube was. So the cube was much more solid. It was like three-dimensional, like I said. So like I could grab it, but I didn't really want to try to focus in on trying to interact with it because um the experience would terminate. So I was trying to not focus too much on it based on what I was taught to do to practice while practicing meditation, is not to try to think about it too much or try to interact with it too much because you could terminate the experience. So I followed what I was taught. So I'm watching this cube rotate. It's getting larger, and it's weird that it's shaped like a cube. I don't even know what it meant. The shape could mean something. I don't know, but it was a cube. And eventually this cube just disintegrated and just became this portal. And this portal, I started seeing a bunch of eyes everywhere, like almost looking through a tunnel with a bunch of like eyes of animals kind of peeking out in the dark, and you're flashing a flashlight. There's a lot of eyes all down this tunnel. And this tunnel was just filled with a bunch of childlike looking ETs, these big eyes. And all those eyes were, you could see through these lenses, through these almond shaped lenses. And there was, it looked like there was hundreds of them. And I didn't understand what was going on, but I went along with the experience. I'll let it run its course. And what was happening is I started moving forward into what would look like this vortex. But I was not afraid, and I almost felt familiarized by all of them, like almost like I knew them. And I felt a sense of that they've been waiting for this. So as soon as I got really excited and realized what I'm seeing, the experience terminated and stopped. And I was really upset because I've never been able to get that to happen again. I went to see my good friend Roxy Reynolds that passed away recently. And she was a psychic medium, and that I worked with. I talked with her about the experience, and she had told me that the experience didn't terminate. You went through. she said, "But there's missing time." And that's I knew it. I knew that there was missing time. I knew that there was something that connects on another side that I don't have the information yet, but I feel like that information will come, and it will come gradually, and breadcrumbs, and I just have to follow those crumbs. So, and and a lot of things have started making sense and started to connect a lot more with that experience, just that experience alone. So she said that portal was an invitation to a group and many groups that are connected in a whole, collectively. And she said this is part of the Starseed program. It is a program you're involved in, and they were waiting for a certain state of consciousness for you to educate in, and to they knew this was going to happen. They were just waiting for that moment. So not she said, just because someone is a starseed doesn't mean that they just get immediately put into that group. There's some people that are starseeds and are completely veered off their path, and they're lost, and they're completely opposite of what they should be doing, and they could be just completely destroying themselves, because of being influenced by what is threatened by who they actually really are, and they've unfortunately fell victim to it. Um, and so it really made sense. So, um, it, it really made sense, especially when that being that tall, lanky gray that was in my room, that I really felt a malevolent present from. I knew right there that I'm a threat to it. And it knows that I'm going to be really giving a lot of details about this. And that's on top of the haunted objects that I have, a lot of the investigations that I've worked on, some of the clients that I've helped. There's a lot of electronic interferences and a lot of things that'll try to veer me from disclosing any of this or talking about it. And they'll cause a lot of issues. When I do work with collabs with other people, there'll be all sorts of mysterious problems that'll happen, going from audio issues, video issues, getting connected, internet problems, computer crashes, software crashes, and it just goes on. And same thing with editing. I'll be editing stuff and things get completely wiped out. Things start happening randomly that shouldn't be happening. And things will get clipped in, um, or clips will get spliced and edited in ways that I never edited them as, and it'll just screw up the whole thing, and I have to restart a whole video, editing a whole video. And it got so bad to a point that I haven't really been able to edit any investigations, and I do tend to obviously work on that eventually when I get the proper equipment to do that, but I'm not going to do that with the current right now. So that's why that's been postponed. So that's why I'm really glad to be able to have the opportunity to podcast and give you guys the information that I have been getting and experiencing, and having a way to share that with you guys. Because let me tell you, it's been a really rough ride, but it's not something that's going to stop me. And I still keep going one way or another. Um, so yeah, moving on. So I've already covered, the astral abductions pretty much. What I do actually want to talk about, though, and I probably sound like a broken record, so I apologize if I brought this up many times, because I feel like I have, but it's such a very interesting experience that I've had. Um, this astral abduction experience, and I know it was an astral this experience uh, really collaborates with the tall ET in my room. Looked very similar. The only thing different is the species was different, but and I know they were different species, but they do work together. Um, this was an Orion group. Um, so when I talk about Orion group, I'm talking about anything. If I ever bring up Orion groups, I'm talking about grays, the tall grays particularly. When I talk about tall grays, I'm not talking about every gray is bad, but particularly most grays are not a benevolent being. They are actually malevolent groups, and more because they've been corrupted by Dracos. They weren't always malevolent. Um, and in fact, actually, most people that do encounter any grays, tall grays, particularly the very tall ones, are the ones that are the most threat, the most malicious, the most terrifying beings to encounter as far as ETs. Um, those ones are actually, they actually work in clones. So most of the times, people that are visited, or not really visited, but abducted by these types of beings, those aren't like actual tall grays. They're actually clones. So they are actually a dying species where they don't really reproduce their own species really anymore, and that was done because of the Dracos. The Dracos corrupted Orion, and when they done that, they also corrupted the DNA of the Greys. So they no longer could reproduce their own kind. So they created clones. So there are Greys, but particularly most of them are clones. So, and they do like these hybrid, human hybrid and all that, like when they abduct people, and they'll mix the DNAs together to keep producing their own kind. But it's not like the the actual, like, full-blooded gray. They're either cloned or they're hybrid. And and these are a lot of the grays that will come in and do the footwork. And then when they get abducted, then you start like, if you're actually there on the ship or on scene, you usually encounter an actual tall gray or two. Um, in some cases, a lot of these groups, like the tall grays, when you do encounter them, they're usually encountered metaphysically. Um, like an experience that I had when I felt like they were trying to astral abduct me. I believe that that was actual gray, but they were doing this remotely. Um, and that's why a lot of beings like this could easily be mistaken as spirits. And that's why I say discernment is very important, because um, it's really important for you to be able to identify what's going on by your intuition. So, but moving on to what I was originally discussing before I kind of got thrown off explaining so much. I had this dream, and this dream was so detailed. I could smell the grass that I was standing on, and all I could see in this dream, or quote dream, it was actually an astral experience. Uh, I could see green grass as far as I could see, and there was not. It was so perfect. Like, there was just hills of green grass and very little trees in the distance. Um, the grass was so lush and just green. There almost seemed like there was not a unperfect grain of grass. Like, it was just perfect. I could smell it. I could feel the breeze that blew in through the grass, through the hills. I would travel up the hill, and I start realizing that this is an astral experience because of the knowing that I had, the conscious knowing, and traveling up this hill, and I see in the distance there are a big pack of trees, almost looking like I would be entering into a forest or something. I really get drawn to heading towards that direction. And when I cross through the first bank of trees and the shrubs of branches, and I get through, and all of a sudden it goes from bright and beautiful to very dimly lit, almost just lit by moonlight, and very windy and cold. And as I'm looking around, it literally is dim lit, and I can see the branches just moving, swaying really aggressively from the wind. And I immediately got this feeling that something's wrong here. So I got drawn to look a certain direction. And when I look in that direction, I've seen this big ship just above my eyes. Right across from where I was at, I look up and there's a ship, and the ship had many bright lights beaming down. And then as this is happening in the distance where I'm drawn to look in that area, there was three tall grays. And these grays didn't look quite like what I experienced in my room before, but these grays look a lot like these child-sized grays that I know of, that I've personally encountered many times. But these ones were really tall, and their heads were slightly more oval. Um, what's also interesting is these these beings didn't even walk. They just kind of glided over slightly off the ground. And these beings were about 9 to 10 feet tall. They were in a pack of three. And when they came to me quickly, I woke up in bed and immediately thought, okay, that was interesting. I think I had an astral experience. Um, and I was trying to hurry up, like quickly come up with what was happening in the situation, trying to collect the information that I got from it. But I was really tired, so I just wanted to close my eyes and just get back to rest and not overthink the situation. And the second I closed my eyes, I could still see these beings, these three tall beings, and it looked like they were working on me. I could see one of them in front of the other two. The other two were observing its work, and it was doing stuff. Like it was grabbing tools and doing stuff to me. And I opened my eyes and they're not there, but then I closed my eyes and I could still see them. So at that point, I knew what to do. And what I did was envision a bright light, manifesting a bright light around me, but envisioning it and manifesting that light around me to banish these beings away. I called upon Archangel Michael, Horus, and my guides and benevolent ET groups to help intervene the situation and stop it, terminate the situation. That terminated the situation immediately. And I've never had an experience like that one ever since. And but it really sticks with me as an experience to learn from. Um, it really confirmed to me at that point that you could be abducted astrally. Then doing a lot of research of a big history of abduction experiences from other people, that almost like 85 of these experiences are actually astral abduction experiences. It's really interesting. So yeah, I thought that was really, really interesting that many other people and most people that experience like anything that's ET abduction or ET visitation is actually done astrally. And it almost seems like it's actually happening, but it's an astral experience because most of these beings will actually pull you astrally to where they're at. And to it feels like you're being physically taken there or physically kidnapped when you're actually astrally being kidnapped. Because when you're in an astral experience, everything feels real. you could smell, you could hear, a lot of these types of senses that you would get in the physical, you could feel in the astral experience. So it's really interesting. Definitely. There's silhouettes that also negative ET groups like to kind of confuse people with to observe or even frighten people. Is and this is what I'm saying, like, when it comes to understanding what is trying to contact you or try to intervene in your life, it's so easy to just claim them all as being spirits, but negative ET groups really like that. And it's actually a lot more of the case than people think. And even in the psychic community, a lot of people that I work with that are psychic mediums also, they've even been it's been even sometimes tough for them in some circumstances where it is that easy to be fooled by a negative ET, as far as like that they're if they're a demon or a negative spirit, but not an ET. It's really, really easy, especially if someone doesn't really isn't really attuned with the ET topic, or really doesn't kind of look into them a little bit more. Because the more you know about demons, the more you understand their weaknesses, and the more you are able to identify them. Same thing with ghosts, spirits, or whatever, anything of that matter, of the paranormal subject, anything, when it comes to residual hauntings, when it comes to intelligent hauntings, it's the same situation. But if you have no education with ETs, the negative ET groups will take full advantage of that, and you could misidentify a lot of circumstances that are actually a place that is a hotbed of activity for negative ET groups. So, and I realized that was the case, in the recent years of my work. So, that's basically kind of why I really felt drawn to look at the paranormal in a wide, full spectrum, and not really tunnel vision my knowledge with what could be paranormal. So there's a lot more to it, and it's a lot to take in. So, um, oh wow. Uh, was that the black shadow figures? Did they look like? Did they resemble something that felt non-terrestrial to you? Are you talking about the shadow figures? Looks like we're merging into the hour 10 mark. Um, I'm gonna take a quick restroom break. I'm gonna be right back, and then we're gonna continue the topic. But before, it looks like Silent Echoes just messaged back. She said it was scary being in its presence. It was very short and had no details, like it was rounded. Oh, whoa, like a black Cheeto puff. Oh, that's interesting. Like, that's so interesting. Because I've seen entities manifest almost like the shape of almost like a jelly bean, if that makes sense. Uh, and then start to actually materialize arms and legs eventually. but they would sometimes manifest or like balls of a mass of energy, and or like a mass of a shadow mass or a silhouette, in that sense, and then just start, you start to see limbs and legs and all that stuff. But I will be right back. I'm going to keep the camera rolling in case if anybody sees anything, let me know. I don't want to keep this camera off, so I will be right back. All right, I am back. Thanks for sticking by. Let's see what we got here. Okay. Okay, so it had arms and legs, but it was all rounded. Forgot to. Okay. Um, oh yeah, I remember when it said that. Glass alive caress. Yeah, right when I left last time. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. So yeah, now that I got more people in here, yeah, I mentioned at the beginning that I did install a light in there. It's a little hard to see because of my ring light. Kind of can't really see it too well, but here you see a lot better when it's actually off. So, watch. So I'm gonna turn this off or just turn it low. So it's pretty cool because with this light I could change the color. It's one of those kind of lights. It's pretty cool. And I set it to green for the topic because we're discuss the primary topic being ETs. So figured it'd make more sense to give her that light today. So but so yeah, we covered a lot about ETs, and that eh, like we covered everything from physical contact, UFO sightings, um, realizing that I was a threat to these beings, these the negative groups, that is, astral abductions, astral visits, angelic visions, and remote contact with ETs. And also, what's interesting is about remote contact is I've had some rare moments where I've had ET groups come through on my spirit box. It's rare, but it has happened, and it's happened last time I was at Dyer Lane, where I asked if they were in the sky in a craft, and what I got an immediate response for that, literally right after I said that, it said, "We're interconnected." And that is a very, very interesting response. It's not a response you really tend to hear come out of anybody's spirit box as being a response from anything. It literally said, "We're interconnected." Super clear. Um, so I thought that was really interesting that it said that right after I asked if it was in a craft. Um, and there was that picture, that photograph I got. Uh, it's an old photograph from the third the third time at Dyer Lane. So the third investigation. Uh, Let me get this laptop plugged in because it's giving me the low battery alert. Okay, we're good. So that photograph is a great example of chameleonized technology, where these beings aren't really there astrally, but they're there. We just can't really see them because they're using this chameleonized technology. They're chameleonizing their bodies with the environment. And there's movies that make reference of that, like Predator, for example, where there's something physically there, but it's invisible. And what's interesting about that is there's been sightings that people have seen these types of beings that resemble exactly what I'm talking about, as far as they may not be the same beings, but definitely using the same type of capabilities. And I've looked into it a lot more, and with the research of it, finding out that there's a lot of people that I guess people back then that refer these sightings as Glimmerman. I've never heard of that term until kind of recently. But when you look up Glimmerman, you start seeing a lot of encounters, people having encounters with these beings that are there, but they're like chameleonized, and you could see like maybe branches moving for no apparent reason, like big branches, and they're moving around the trees, and but you don't see it, but you kind of see it. There's almost like a an energy that's moving, energy force moving around in the trees, and it's just climbing around. And and that's interesting because when I see that, I always think of that photograph I have of this being that really resembles what looks like a very tall ET, about 9 to 10 feet tall, which is very interesting because it matches the same height and almost physical like description as far as how it face looked. The eye was fleshy. It like, I mean, it was materialized so well that my camera flash caught it through the eye lens. You could see it off the eye lens, and showing that it was actually physically there. And I think in those situations, we're talking chameleonized technology or conscious capabilities. So, and I believe that some of these species just have that ability. I mean, when you look at a chameleon, chameleons could change their colors almost instantly with their natural bodies. So, who's to say that there aren't beings out there just with that physical capability of just completely making their body completely invisible to the environment, exactly matching every single thing that they move by, that their skin complexion just literally blends in with the environment and everywhere they're at. Let me catch up with the comments. Let's see what we got here. Okay, so read some of these comments. Yeah, I know. There, it has definitely been said about government using that type of technology recently. Actually, not even recently. They've been using it. They just only recently publicly kind of been spurting a little of the information out. So, oh, Dogman. Yeah, I've heard about Dogman. Yeah. So I believe that a lot of cryptids are also capable of this type of technology or capability. This could be some type of conscious capability depending on their dimensional conscious ability, because a lot of these beings, I believe, are not from this particular dimension or even this reality. So they kind of come and go whenever they want. Um, they could come physical, non-physical, but I believe that when it comes to chameleonized technology is definitely technology based, or um, just skin complexion capabilities that they're able to change their skin complexion to whatever their environment they're at and use that at a full advantage. So definitely, yeah. So it's pretty interesting. So a lot of that started making a lot of sense to me because just doing so much research on a lot of that stuff and just kind of looking back at a lot of my experiences and then looking at what I have now in the current and then just stuff that I've been digging up after that, and it really just really makes sense in that sense that and also what insiders have said, because there's insiders that spoke out to these type of abilities that some of these beings are capable of doing. And yeah, exactly, Edna. And the trees are a great source of energy for beings to come in and out, uh, in a lot of situations. And some of the clients that I've helped involved portals and trees. So that's a definite. So and Dire Lane's a huge hotbed, a location like that, huge hotbed when it comes to portals. Those trees are full of portals over there. There's so much energy in those trees, and it's no wonder I caught faces in them. I mean, that place is just alive all over. Um, and the just the craziness of everything happening lately. I mean, 2025 has already been a pretty interesting one already. And we haven't got through the first month, but man, we got a whole lot to look forward to, in the next coming couple weeks. We're going to be experiencing a lot of things that no one really was expecting. So keep your eyes out because there's a lot of interesting things. I'll definitely say that this right now is that it's an interesting time to be alive. We're living in a really a great time to be alive, as much as it seems like it's been really stressful and very challenging, and that's basically was expected because of the mass disclosure that's about to happen. So, yeah. Yeah, 2024 was a real interesting ride, to say the least. So, that's why we're getting all sorts of crazy stuff. I mean, you got the quote drones, and you got the mysterious fog right after. You got these LA fires that happen. There's a lot of things that are happening that a lot of people don't know what's really happening. They're just trying to take in whatever information they get the second they see it, and but all of it is going to unveil, and all of it's going to surface up, and everybody's going to know what's going on. So it's coming. Yeah, it's so chaotic. It's awful on a lot of the stuff that's happening, and that nothing's really being said, but it's all the cards will be laid out. and there is going to be a selective people that are going to be disclosing all this, because it's going to be disclosed in a way that the alliance wants it to be disclosed. So there are two sources that I recommend people looking into as far as the information that I just brought up. Um, David Wilcock. If you've heard of David Wilcock, he's on YouTube. He's been featured on Ancient Aliens, the early seasons. I think like the first 6 seasons, he was featured in there. But he has a YouTube channel, and he does his lives every Sunday, and he keeps you really up to date on what's going on with the alliance and what's really going on, especially with these mysterious things that are happening. And actually, he's the one that was talking about that everybody needs to be aware that Dr. Stephen Greer will be announcing it massively to the public masses, that he's going to be disclosing all of this stuff, everything everybody needs to know of what has been hidden from us about anything with UFOs, UAPs, and the technology involved in it too. So keep an eye out for that. It's going to be really interesting. I hope everybody that's in the chats have been enjoying their year so far. I forgot to ask that, but and I hope that there isn't no interruptions. I know StreamYard is kind of a pain. I've seen the views kind of drop down and climb right back up. So I'm guessing sometimes it's been crashing. So I apologize for that. Let's see. Let me read these comments real quick. Edna said, there's so much stuff that you will never think is real or possible. It's going to be like a science fiction movie happening. Basically, yeah. The interesting thing about that is there have been insiders that actually had said that, believe it or not believe it, but I believe it 100%, that the technologies that we have that we don't know about, that the mass public don't know about, that we have, the technologies that we have is so far advanced that there are extraterrestrials that come from out of our solar system and trade technologies with us. That's how far advanced we are. But we don't know that. But wait for this disclosure, because this mass disclosure that's going to happen, we're going to experience a technology leap that we've never experienced ever before. And we're going to experience that. So, and what I've heard from these insiders is that if the disclosure doesn't happen, because it has to happen. If it doesn't happen, what happens is that we get this massive visitation that can't be hidden, and these beings are going to want an explanation of why the disclosure didn't happen, and they'll have to explain themselves publicly. So it's going to happen. And what's interesting is here's something really interesting. There's a man, he's an insider, can't remember the name, but I've only seen like a couple of segments of involving this, and but it's a real video, and this is like from the year 2000 or prior, from 9/11, just before it. So he had spoken about that, you won't see me until 2025, and that's when I'll be able to talk about all this stuff. This is in the year 2000. This man is saying this, and you got all these things happening right now. It's really interesting that someone would say something like that. I'll see you in 2025. That's when I could start talking about this. So this was planned by the Alliance for a mass disclosure to happen. So it's going to happen, and there's many people that are also going to experience what the Alliance has spoken about. These insiders said that the Alliance talk about this experience of what is like ascension, and everybody's going to experience it. And what it is it's it's a conscious evolution. It's a cleansing of the mass consciousness, and we start to merge into a higher dimension. So our world is literally on this road that it's not stoppable. It's going to incarnate whether if we want it to or not, but it's going to incarnate into a higher dimension. It's an evolution that the earth has never had an opportunity of having. Our planet has never experienced that. And as far as I know, I don't think any planet has ever undergone this experience without a dramatic catastrophe happening. Usually that happens from a solar flare, but we're not going to be experiencing that where you get this big catastrophic apocalyptic moment caused by a solar flare, and then that cycle continues on. So from the Alliance, they say that that is not going to happen, that we're going to experience this through what is like ascension, and everybody is going to experience it. And this is going to change the way people think. Probably, I'm assuming. I don't know what experiencing ascension's like, but it's going to change everybody. And I guess we all excel to this higher dimension, and but we're still here. And what this is, and actually what's interesting is, um, the Bible even talked about this, which I think a lot of people actually may have misunderstood this. And so it talked about um, how Jesus would tell people, what you see me do, you shall be able to do, and more. And what he meant by that is that when you cross over, when your physical body dies, you go into this higher dimension, the fourth dimension, what we call the astral dimension, the non-physical world, non-physical dimension. You cross over into this fourth dimension, then you have this fourth dimensional body. And this fourth dimensional body is love without wisdom. Now, when you cross over into higher spaces, like you cross over into, let's say you're into a fifth dimension, a sixth dimension, and so on. The higher you are. So we're talking let's say the fifth dimension, more conscious capabilities, more dimensional capacities. So with dimensions, like say if you ascend through the ascension process into a sixth dimension or seventh dimension, we're looking at love with wisdom and courage. Now, these capabilities is what he was talking about, and more. This is the and more part. So what he was showing people, demonstrating walking on water, turning water into wine, these were capabilities that you would do in a higher dimensional capability. But when he said and more, he was teaching people the ascension process, that the if you gain love, wisdom, courage, forgiveness, all that stuff, you ascend into a higher being. You will learn and be able to have access to these type of capabilities. So there's a lot of stuff that people can read, but they don't really process that type of stuff because it's not something that's taught in the mainstream at all. I need to catch up on the comments. Let's see. Okay. Um, yeah, you're right, Chastity. Pre 2000 era was different. It even felt different. I mean, I don't know how many of you are before the 2000s, like 80s, 90s. Anybody in the chats from that era, but I don't know if you noticed that. Um, it felt a lot different. There's a different feeling. Even some of the food even tasted different. And I know, like, don't get me wrong. I know, as you get older, your taste buds do change, but it's just interesting, like how many people say this a lot that this doesn't taste like how it changed, like how it used to be. Did they change the ingredients? In some cases, no, the ingredients are the same. It's just things just felt and tasted different. And I don't know. It's just, I guess, in a way, uh, the change of vibration of everything we knew have changed. And also you got to think also there's been a lot of interesting things like Mandela effects that do happen. So, and Mandela effects do affect our reality. Okay, so when something has altered our reality, it changes many things. Yeah, basically, that's what it seems like. They try to make so much things that are synthetic. You don't know what's real to eat and what's not real. I mean, I've heard of 3D printed meat like that they're trying to push, and it's just all weird. And it's just stuff that I don't know how anybody could touch the stuff. Yet alone even just having any thought of trusting it. Um, let's see. To go. Okay. I'll catch you later, Silent Echoes. Thanks for coming. Let's see. Da, da, da. Chastity said, I think it's slowly but surely been happening and happening in levels and layers of consciousness based in soul placement and vibration. I agree 100% with that. That's spot on, Chastity, right there. That's exactly what I think too. I really think that. Um, with the more it comes with awareness, the more you become aware, the more society itself becomes aware. you know the more aware you become with another individual, the more society does. It's the law of correspondence. It's crazy how the truth about that, like how real that is. Okay. um all right, Chess. Oh yeah, no problem, Lucid. Yeah, okay, no problem. Yeah, so and great salt that I would suggest for that is a black salt. Um, you get that usually out, like any metaphysical shop will sell it. And if you can't get a hold of it, if you have salt at home, you just want to set the intention in that salt and put all that energy of intention in that salt to protect you overnight, and just graze a little bit under your bed. It'll absorb. It's a grounding substance, so it's a natural mineral earth element. So it's a great grounding protection. So after so long, you're going to want to vacuum it up probably every couple weeks, until things start really getting back to normal. You won't have to keep repeating that process. So, and if you have to keep repeating that process, there's probably something, an object in your home, or if you live in a house that's maybe really active with spirits, or if someone that is maybe sending you some bad stuff, maybe there's a cord that needs to be cut. But I'm hoping that doesn't, pester you in your life for much longer. So hopefully that'll take care of your problem. We don't have real, yeah. So I did so we got all these basically the main topic has been set in place. I think we covered a lot of good stuff. I wanted to take a little bit of time to throw in a few device moments. So I did bring a few things. We got the millimeter right here. What I'm going to do is I got a tripod behind me. We're probably not going to be able to see this very well, but I'm going to set the REM setting on so at least we'll be able to make out the REM setting. So I'm going to set that. Bear with me. This thing's probably going to go off in my hand because I got to screw the mount in. So I got to get the temperature reader, little temperature antenna. All right. So I get this REM setting on. Get this device on. It is on. I'm going to get that EM pump going too. That is me. Okay, I'm not going to have the REM range too high because actually I don't want it high at all because this thing will just start going crazy in my hand like it's doing right now. So I got this screwed in. Okay, we're about to mount it on a tripod. Okay, let's re-zero that now. So I don't know how well it's looking. Yeah, you definitely can't make out. So I'm gonna just turn off this backlight. There's no point of having it, but I wanted to at least get the REM setting going, so that way. Okay, I'm re-zeroing it to the least sensitivity. I can't even speak right now. So that way, if anything has to come to this, it's got to come literally this close. You see that? But that's me physically. With spirits, it's going to be different. So, but they'll have to come a little bit closer than usual in order for this to go off. I'm going to be setting the EM pump on right now, but I just want to get that rolling real quick. I'm going to get the Ovilus going too. So I want to make it known that if anything's here, if there's anybody that wants to make contact, they have questions, I have questions too. So if you want to come through, right now is the time. Close like clothing. The camera just kind of blurred a little bit. Hopefully everybody could see me good. An hour. OUR hour. All right. So, okay. And also what I have, like I used last time, the this portal box. So we're going to try this Tide. TIED. That kind of Tide. Okay. Well, let's see. I can't remember how to use this thing. Okay, here it is. All right. Let's see. Okay. Is there someone here right now? And if you are here, can you come through and speak through the speaker? Okay. I'm sorry for the screeching, but that I never heard it sound like that. Let me read some of these comments. Oh, wow, you did? Oh, I'm sorry you've only had 3 hours of sleep. Face Stephen. Oh, no, what's interesting is we were just talking about Dr. Stephen Greer. It said Stephen. See that? Stephen Nice. So, chakras, we are energy, feel like of myself cause I thought. Comfort and sight. Interesting. I do apologize about this thing screeching. I don't know if I just tuned into the wrong frequency or what, but or there's some kind of interference. I've never heard it scream like that. Yeah, see, Flexina, about your question about, who you are, we all kind of eventually find that answer out, whether if it's manifest, boots. Oh, this thing's just going off. Dominate. Okay. Soldier. Explain. Child. Betty. Wow. That's interesting. So you know, it we're all full of questions of who we are, who we're connected with, and I myself don't even know exactly this a particular species of ETs that my soul is actually tied with, what I'm connected with. But eventually, those answers do come. Um, Sometimes they could come; those answers come through dreams, through astral projection, visions, um, and I think that we are all going to get that answer pretty soon here when we experience this ascension like experience. And I think that because of that, that's part of the evolution that we go through. So, so yeah, Chastity, it would not surprise me at all. Okay, thank you. All right, have a great night, Chas. Um, I'm gonna get this started though, and hopefully get this without the screechiness. That was terrible. All right, so I got the rate as far up as possible. So, ooh. Okay. Oh boy. So, someone here? Pam? Explain. Did you hear that? And we got soldier, explain, child, Betty. It's interesting. Any of you would like to speak up? Angela? Angela? Could have sworn I heard no. Well, if you do want to speak, this device is open for your words. This device is really interesting, though. These portal devices are just fascinating. No spikes on this yet, though. I'm watching it. I haven't seen any milligas. What color is that light, Pam? The light in your face. Oh my gosh. So the bracelet. Oh, bracelet. That's interesting. Look at that. Bracelets. It said bracelet. Wow. Well, thank you for clarifying that I'm wearing bracelets. That was very intelligent of you. That pentacle with Solomon protection seal on that, or is also known as the seal of Faust, is super tarnished. Shock. That pentacle was not tarnished earlier. It was clean. It is now tarnished. That is crazy. It almost looks like brass. That's how tarnished it is. Shop gender lot. That's crazy. Can you tell me what color that is, Pam? That's right above you. Can you just validate it? Cut, decompose. Orb. Said orb, cut, decompose. So that could easily mean decompose, that tarnishing of that pentacle. Cell, excel, spread, cupcake. Heard Pam mention cupcake before at Dyer Lane, and I'm not sure what Pam means by that. Yeah. Yeah, I know. That is crazy, right? Pam, do you want me to change the light color? What color would you prefer? Green. It just said green. Both. What was the other color? I'm sorry, I may have missed another color. Sorry, I gotta step away for a moment. School, both school. School, yeah, that says school. Okay, the speaker's right in front of Angela, the wedding doll, right now. Oh. Did you hear that voice? Ooh, there it is again. And Pam, can you tell me what happened to this pentacle? Just said it's bad. Is it bad because it's tarnished? Is it time for me to clean this pentacle so that way your seal is protected? Is it time? Too old? That voice is interesting. I got to review that. I also have a Palo Santo stick, also right on the knob, the handle of this case as well. The temperature is 66.6, and then it's going down to 66.4, and now it's back to 666, and then 66.5. Now it's 666 again. That's weird. 666 again. It's like locked right there. Is this a warning? Is this a warning of something? Or is this a sign of your presence, Pam? I could feel an energy all over my hand right now. Holy moly. Can you set off this REM pod? Active. You know what it is? Maybe be able to interact with it if I get a little bit closer. And once you bump up the sensitivity up just a couple notches, because it seems like Pam is really active right now. Can you say my name? It just said Rebecca. It gave me a name, but it didn't say my name. It just said move Rebecca Party. It sounded like it tried to say Duran. Pam, can you move that amethyst pendulum right there? Can you move it? It just said kill. Was someone killed? Angela, can you move this pendulum? Just a little bit. Carbon. And if it's too much for you to move right now, that's fine. If you need energy, there is ease flow. If you need an energy source, there's a neon pump over here. That energy source is surrounding this area. So you could use that energy. Yeah, absolutely can. Yep. Oh gosh, whoa. Did you guys just see that? I hope I got that on camera. There was almost like this mist, and it just said clean early Satan. What the heck? I literally just seen it at the corner of my eye. It just said clean early Satan. So I'm definitely gonna be having to clean that pentacle too. That's crazy because that is not tarnished like that. Was this recent damage to this pentacle? It absorbed a lot of bad energy. Is there bad energy in that pentacle? Does that need to be cleaned? Because that pentacle is placed there for a reason. It's there for your protection and the public's protection. It's just staying at 666 on the temperature. I could feel this energy and it's warm. It's really, really hot. Right here around my knuckles, and it shouldn't be hot. I don't have the heater on in my house. The temperature is 66.6. It should be kind of cold. To scissors and nightmares? Not that I'm aware of, but there's... Holy crap, this thing's going off. Tim Plant Aura. I just heard yes. Oh, Chastity, you heard yes too. Wow. So there's a lot of validation of things that need to be done. Yeah, that's exactly what I did just before this live too. Lit 2 Palo Santo sticks and a candle. That was weird. That obviously was some type of contamination. That was an interesting voice right there. Who was that? Who's coming through? I heard a new voice. Can you introduce yourself? Oh, interesting. You just said rot lie. 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 Yep. I've heard demon many times coming through. I think there's many coming through over here. This gauge, the temperature gauge is finally at 66.5, so we're off the 666. 4. Can you validate how many of you are there? I almost thought I heard 40, and you said 4. Chas, you said 4. Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, that's right. So what it's doing is that it's searching through many radio signals rapidly. And what we're looking for, because it's using the radio frequencies to be able to communicate, because our human ears don't tap into that frequency, but these radio signals do. So they could speak through these radio signals. And so what's doing is that it's surfing through these radio signals at a rapid pace. So rapidly that the words shouldn't come in clear at all. They're just gibberish. But you'll get sometimes sentences, whole words to sentences through multiple radio signals, which shouldn't, that's not normal. That was an interesting voice. Thick. So, and about the scissors and nightmares, so like sharp objects. And what's interesting is that there's entities that involved with a lot of it just said 60 real that involved with a malice kind of set, and that could involve sharp objects, maybe a scissor or a knife or blade. I've had things say stab many times through this Ovilus device. Said here, trapped here. Are you talking about being in the case? Who's trapped? Numbers. Now, when you mean trapped, are you mean contained? Oh, the screen just flickered. Turn it up. Let's see. I gotta try to turn it up a tiny bit. I do apologize. There's landscapers outside right now. I asked that because I had a number right after you. Text of a person clearing my hand with. Oh. If it's connected to. Oh, that's crazy. Yeah, I've never experienced any of them cutting me with scissors, but it sounds like something that they would do, because I've been drugged into really interesting dream experiences involving especially them, and that sounds like something that they would probably do. So it wouldn't surprise me. I heard need help. Is that who needs help? I have a lot of haunted objects, so this could connect with something else. And it also there could be a lot of residual energy in some of the objects too, from the past. So a lot of objects hold a lot of memory, and that could be some residual. Oh yeah, of course. Chastity. Yeah, Chastity's like really good at listening to these words. It's pretty cool. Possible present. Yeah, games. Let's move around a little bit. I'll have to turn this up a little bit. I'm gonna move around. Got Eagles way up here. Got Lara. Lara, that hamster doll head. Anybody want to speak up? And what does it say? Anti? Anti what? Anti, like you don't want it? What do you mean by anti? I want to take the time to appreciate the communication that you've given us. Focus, B. I want to appreciate the communication that you've given us. I really do. So I noticed that it's gotten a lot more. Yeah, I know. I've heard that a lot. I'm going to kind of pause this for a moment and talk a little bit. So, and I apologize about the landscaping outside because I forgot it's landscaping day. So, but I would like to talk about some of the stuff that came through because that was really interesting. Oh, you heard Case? Yeah, I know, Melinda. It was really strange. Like some of the stuff. Yeah. That I mean, right off the bat, I know I heard green when I asked Pam, "Can you validate the color of the light?" And I heard green. Pinky. I wonder what it means by that. I've heard that many times. It's got to have some type of spiritual meaning to that pinky. I don't know what it means by that, but I've gotten that multiple times. Yeah, you heard green. Exactly. It's really interesting. Washington. I got in Washington many times too, and I doubt that it actually means the George Washington or the state of Washington. I don't know. Maybe there was an object. There's a haunted object I own that maybe is from Washington. I don't know, because I've gotten Washington a lot around these objects. No, I'm sorry. I was correcting my spelling. Oh yeah, it's cold over there, I'm sure too. It's pretty cold over here. What's the temperature on this thing? 66.9. So it's climbing a little bit. So yeah, I thought that was really interesting. I heard a lot of screams. It was really interesting because I got to really analyze this because there was voices that I heard that were, oh, thank you. Yeah, 307 subs. That's awesome. Yeah, if no one has subscribed yet, please do and give a thumbs up if you can. Thank you. Appreciate that. So there's voices that came through that were really interesting, and that's another thing is when you are running a device like that, you want to listen for voices that really stand out. And there was a few of them that I really want to look into because I heard some voices when I also brought the different voices that weren't matching that were by Pam versus when I brought it by Angela the Wedding Doll. What's interesting is when I brought it over by Angela the Demon Doll, it said no. I don't know if Angela the Demon Doll really likes the tension, but usually she gets a little aggressive about that. Def would be good to go back once. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. the help on that, Chas. Um, yeah, it's so I'm gonna leave this light green for the live because apparently Pam agrees that the green light's pretty acceptable for this type of live. So yeah, maybe that that's definitely a possibility, Edna. Um, but there's some definite intelligent responses in there. So yeah, I thought that was really neat. So I hope everybody's year is going by good, but like I said earlier, be prepared because there's going to be a lot of interesting things that we're going to be looking forward to for the next couple weeks. So yeah, make sure you keep an eye out for Dr. Stephen Greer because he's going to be covering a lot of cool stuff, a lot of everything that everybody needs to know and what's been hidden. So yeah, very cool experience for sure. I'm really glad I was able to make this live. And I was really late coming on because of all sorts of difficulties. And when I was testing everything, testing the StreamYard was when I was testing StreamYard, everything was fine. So I was like, okay, everything's working, everything's the way it should be. So I clicked out and got a few things set up, came back, and then all of a sudden it said camera couldn't get on, Rose line. The camera wasn't coming on the StreamYard, the audio wasn't coming on, I couldn't connect my Shure mic. Just all those kind of problems were happening. So, and then I tried to close out of StreamYard, and then the browser wasn't responding. So I had to manually shut down my computer, forcefully shutting it down, and then reboot it up, and finally got it going. So it just these kind of problems are to be expected. So I guess it's casual for a lateness to happen when you're doing this kind of job. So just bear with it. But that's why originally I was gonna go live at 10 a.m. and I switched it to 10:30 because I knew something like this was gonna happen. And soon enough, I got on later than 10:30. It was like more close to 11. Yeah, exactly. Uh, gotcha. Oh, thank you, Edna. Appreciate you. And if anybody has any questions too about everything, I know that I had an overwhelming amount of information that I kind of popped in here with. So if you guys have any questions, because we're at that moment where I'm ready to take whatever questions right now. So good opportunity to do it. Yeah, I appreciate you coming, Melinda. Thank you for your time on making it here. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Thank you for showing up, Edna. I appreciate the time. So and I want to get started really doing more lives and episodes and dropping a lot more content now for this year because I feel like this year is going to be the year that I've been waiting for. So I wanted to start this year with this really interesting subject that really needed to be said. So I really had a lot of information that I needed to get out and just kind of get it off my back because I needed everybody in tune with this when I was going to discuss. So let's see. Melinda said, "Have you had any recent ET experiences lately that confirms your intuition of what's to come?" Um, so I haven't had any experiences involving what's to come except for some of the stuff that I've seen and heard from insiders. However, I've actually had a recent experience last night, but um, I didn't really see any ET looking beings. Last night I saw what was more of the silver blanket brush kind of shuttering in my vision, where it does this silver shutter, and in the darkness with your eyes closed. And then they'll do like a twist shutter. So it'll be like a silver blanket twisting downward or going across. And then I'll just see these faces kind of so the shimmer will happen, the shutter will happen, but then there'll be a pattern of like a face maybe with it. And but I didn't see or feel anything from any of the ET groups that I'm connected with on that vision. That was just last night. Um, and I did see something in the sky this morning when I was driving, but I didn't really pay too much attention to it because I was pretty, like trying to wake up still, and I'm on the road and I want to be more focused on the road. So I didn't focus too much on it, but I noticed that when I turned back in the direction, that object in the sky was no longer there, and it was not moving. It like appeared there, and then when I turned back in the other direction where I would be able to see that in the sky, and it wasn't there. But could be because I was really tired. I was really focused on the road, but that was my most recent experiences when it comes to ETs. But as far as intuition of what's to come, not much besides what I know from some of the insiders, what I've heard. So there's some really interesting density, Oramus. You know what's interesting that it just said density is is how we're going to experience this higher state of consciousness and density. So at a whole, now that we're going to be in a higher state of density. This is really cool. So let's see. Let me scroll through these comments. Um, yeah, Jas, for sure. This is the year, and this is the year I feel like I've been waiting for, and I think a lot of good things are going to be coming. Um, a lot to make up for. There's going to be a lot of making up for, and I feel like this is the year for that. 2024 was the year that we were going to be facing some of our most biggest challenges, and I felt like a lot of us were affected by that. I know I myself and many others that I know, some people, including in this comment in this chat, that have lost a lot of loved ones during last year. Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. See, that's what's good about the awareness about things like this, about discussions like this, is getting ready for disclosure. So that stuff that's going to be said will be just mind blowing, and it change the way you may think about a lot of things, um but at least being more prepared and more aware versus someone that is more consciously asleep from all of it and just blocked out from it, getting the information just blown to their face is a little bit more of a panic shock to them, because it's out of their comfort zone, and it's out of their belief, and it's a lot to take in for them, and it could be a little bit more different of an effect versus someone that is aware. So being aware for it and being ready for it, I would like to ask if you are familiar with the Project Blue Book, and what's your thoughts, if so far, or as much as you can express here on YouTube. Um, Now I'm trying to remember Project Blue Book. So I know about Project Blue Book, but I get a lot of the project the projects that they do kind of mixed up. Is that the one about the fake UFO invasion? Because I think that's when I want to think that you're bringing up. And I apologize if I'm talking about the wrong project that uh, the um, the shadow government is trying to do, which is involving um, a fake UFO invasion. And Dr. Stephen Greer covers that information on. He's been on podcast talking about that, and so I think some of the events that have been currently happening, wink, wink, may be involved with something to do with that. So it's pretty bad. Um, and let's see. So the certain pattern when they about to show up. Yeah. Um, so there's a lot of things showing up in the sky. I mean, you got things from people saying that there's drones in the sky, right? Um, but these drones have capabilities that no one's ever experienced before. They have technologies that we don't understand. Some of them are going, they're saying faster than the speed of sound, and they're going in and out of the ocean. There's these balls of energy that are shape shifting, and they're not really physical. And these what they're calling plasmoids. Well, so what do you mean plasmoids? So those aren't drones. Those are obviously not drones. So what are they really covering up? And that's the big thing that we're going to find out the truth, because they really leave this really empty space of information with people, and it really confuses people. It just said love Jen. Okay, love is important. And then I got a name Jen. So, and some of the insiders had said also, I heard this from David Wilcock. He had said that um, that these things that are quote drones, these high technological vehicles that are as big as cars, frigid, that's cold, 66.7, are really difficult to take down. But he had said that there is a technology that we have that can take it down, and involves electromagnetic pulse. It's a weapon technology that society isn't really fully aware of yet, that we use to be able to take down these type of craft, these UAPs or UFOs that the military is actually using to take some of these ships down. And they explained them as electromagnetic pulse weapons. So this is a new technology that is also going to be part of what's going to be disclosed. So keep an eye out for that too. So you got the electromagnetic pulse weapons. You got plasmoids, which I think the plasmoids are definitely, based on how I've seen some of the videos, and I looked at some of these videos and I almost thought they were fake on some of them. Not saying all of them are real though, because there's so much you could do with AI nowadays. But after you've seen so many AI videos, you really start to catch what's AI and what's not AI now. After going from new to the AI stuff that's been on the internet to now, you could really see, after you watch so many AI stuff, you really see when it's AI. And there's some things I could tell you right now that I've seen that was not AI. And the interesting thing is, there's a lot of people that don't know, but I'm seeing a lot of shapes involved with these plasmoids. These shapes involve a lot of like geometry, a very sacred geometry looking shapes that are involved in these, and that it would take you to really kind of look at it frame by frame, but you could see these shapes. It's really interesting, and there's a lot of sacred geometry when it comes to UFOs and extraterrestrials. There's a lot of geometry involved. Porch. Let's see these comments. Oh, you get visions of your past life. It's wild. Oh, that's interesting. Edna says, Duran, I was listening to this lady that lives in Northern California that has been having a bunch of paranormal or supernatural stuff going on here. Oh. Was that on what channel was that on? Was that on Instagram, or was that on like a series on a streaming streaming platform? It says Flexina says, feels like I am the only one in here who does not get visions, needs to catch up. LOL. Well, visions murder just came through, and that's what I was talking about. Sometimes this thing's talked about, like how I was talking about this malice energy that does come from, I particularly get it from Pam quite often. That's where I really tell people to be careful what you tap if you try to tap into some of these objects, because some of these objects will carry the influence of things like that, of malice. um and the influence is very powerful. So uh being strong-willed and love is important. That is a huge defense. um Yeah, so visions, that's not something I got overnight. I've gone through a couple of spiritual awakenings, and I, my first spiritual awakening, I started having those visions, and it started class. That's what it said. Sorry, class. It started happening uh, when after I investigated Dire Lane. Some people may end up getting a spiritual awakening from something else. All it takes, sometimes it could take a word that just snaps the consciousness awake in you. That just from the snap of a finger, all of a sudden you're going to bed at night and you just have a lucid dream of your life that takes you on a journey of information that you've been looking for. Uh, I've got mine from both. I had this really elusive dream of setting my feet. I like floated down towards Dire Lane on the cold asphalt with no shoes on, just my feet resting on the cold road. And all I could see is the road going out in the fog, look behind me, road going out in the fog. And then I see the tree that I was investigating by with Pam over there, but Pam wasn't over there in this dream, in this vision or astral experience. And then I saw the fence, the barbed wire fence line that was right there. And then you got the field, the open field. Um, and then surrounding me were these cyan, or like a sky bluish type colored orbs, and there was many of them informed, and they were telling me like that, keep going, you're on the right path, and don't lose your focus. And those were the main things I heard from these orbs that were speaking to me. And I think honestly that these orbs were definitely in connection with Archangel Michael. George. Informed George. They're definitely, I feel like, connected with Archangel Michael. And because Archangel Michael is, as being part of an angelic corpse, jewelry communicate. Wow, it's interesting. Is very so the angelic corpse do work alongside with the Alliance and other benevolent ET groups. And I believe that a lot of these groups that are involved with Archangel Michael uh, resonate with that energy. And what is said, from my knowledge, is Archangel Michael's energy when he traverses in energy orb form is a cyan blue. And all these orbs had that color. I need to start reading some of these. Let's see. Let's see. I think I captured a picture of one, which is weird. Have not heard of them being in Denmark. I need to go back, I think, more. Check them out. Okay. Yeah, definitely check those out. Those two people out, Edna. Chastity said yes. It talks about how the CIA is sending out signals to help awaken people and then show projections in the sky. Oh yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I've heard of that, Chastity. Yeah. I don't know too much about it. And like I said, I've kind of scattered my knowledge on a lot of other projects that they've worked on. But I know that topic's been pretty big right now, especially with what's going on. Other projections as well. Yeah. Mhm. I'm gonna check, tune in. Yep. Mhm. Oh, which one's your mom's? Oh, Jen. Wow. Wow, love Jen. Dang, that's crazy. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Yeah, that's crazy. I don't trust AI. Yeah, AI is it's pretty tough. Like, and the thing about AI is it's when it's in the wrong hands, the the thing about AI is when yeah, like there's things that you could do that are good with AI to benefit from, but unfortunately, the shadow of humanity, the shadow part of the humanity will get a hold of that technology one way or another at some point. Then they start doing bad things with it. They'll use it for bad. There's kind of almost no avoiding that. So but all that stuff is going to be exposed. So the more exposure happening, the more the vibration increases, the more the negative no longer could hide. So we're kind of pushing them in the corner. And right now it's said, as the Earth being a giant refugee camp, that they're kind of cornered here and they have nowhere to go. So position, that's interesting. Um, so because a lot of the negative that are outside of our solar system, we are protected by an energy grid that is a part of our solar system. So they could detect unwanted beings coming in and out of our solar system. So they could be stopped. Grave. Interesting. So yeah, they could be stopped. So there's that we have that technology is one of those technologies that society is not aware that we have. You position grave you. Okay. What is that supposed to mean? Position grave. It said position grave you. Okay. Well, this is trying to say I'm going to be in a grave. So, see, that's another thing is that this is not something that is Chris. Well, see, I'm not Chris. So, it's someone named Chris go is buried in a grave. So, yeah, there's technologies that keep beings like that out of our solar system. So, the ones that are in our solar system are literally refugeed here on our planet and they have nowhere to go now. So when this incarnation cycle happens, the great reveal happens. So they will have nowhere to hide. So that's I'm definitely looking forward to. Let's see. I need to go back a little bit more. I feel like I'm the okay. So I already read that. I really appreciate the chat, everybody, with all the questions. Um, really amazing questions. Let's see. Um, because our government has to weaponize everything that is good for humanity. Yeah, that's true. And, that's why I'm so glad a lot of things are about to be revealed because the negative won't be able to hide. And let's see. Edna said, I've even heard of them putting some homeless in harm's way. And I mean, where these dogmen are to where they get killed. Oh, that's awful. So they're using kind of like this supernatural creature to just feed on these people. Is that what you're saying, Zinc? Um, and them, I mean the government. Yeah, probably. Who knows? Dogman may have been created by the government. with these secret projects that they do, they've done really awful things. And uh, there's when it comes to government, there is so a majority of a government is we call the shadow government or the cabal, secret societies involving dark, and but there are um, the combative society of that within the government that actually tries to stop that pastor that tries to stop that. And that is part of the process that we're about to be going through. We're going to be seeing a lot of interesting things, and it's going to blow everybody's mind because there's going to be a lot of disclosure that no one's ever experienced ever in their lifetime. Um, so this is really big, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. So it said zinc eye pasture. I don't know what that means. Um, one of the things that also is interesting is alive. Yeah, it's a great time to be alive right now. It definitely is. Um, so I think seeing that video as well. So there's been a lot of so we've been society itself as a whole has been experiencing a lot of more sightings of UFOs, UAPs more than ever before right now. Enjoy, yes. So in the next couple weeks, we're going to be experiencing a lot more sightings. So sightings like you never would expect. So there's going to be something big happening, and Dr. Stephen Greer is going to be going over that. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. It must be because I'm looking forward to new changes, especially involving ETs and sightings. Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is going to be so big. It's something that I knew was gonna. I mean, let's take it back like 4 years ago. 4 years ago, I was looking into the whole talk about full disclosure, and that it was going to happen in our lifetime, and that I never would thought that it would be so soon. And it's really amazing. But with all the events that has happened the past 4 years, I know that this full disclosure had to be pushed right now because of what was happening with our society as a whole. And when I mean 20, um, yeah, it's so when I mean society as a whole, I'm talking about the whole world, our whole world, what has been happening. And a lot of stuff is going to be changing. So it's really amazing. Let's see. Engine tells me it's going to be very good for many years. Oh, yes, exactly. I mean, I couldn't be more relieved. So, uh, you line and connect the dots of everything that's happening. Everything's going to really make sense to a lot of people in the end. Yeah, Edna. Yeah. Um, so because even people that shirt already. So it's said that based from insider information that a lot of people that are going to be experiencing this ascension process, I mean, yeah, everybody's going to experience it, even people that aren't really the nicest of people. But it would take a really, really bad, evil person to really not be shared through the process of this and be left behind. Um, and what I mean by left behind is that they're not excelled in that same density. They're still in the third density. Um, So, but there's very few people that are gonna go through that. And based on what I know, and genuinely, most of those beings are going to be Dracos, and uh, a lot of the people that work with or associate with them. So, yeah, I mean, this is like really fascinating stuff because there's been so many people that had unanswered, like no answers of what been going on with all these people that have been abducted by ETs over the years. Mysterious disappearances. I mean, who knows? Like maybe some of the people that disappeared out of nowhere may just reappear but never aged and return back here. Yeah, I think that would be. It just said seek apocalypse. And what's interesting is that apocalypse mean it could be the end of a cycle. Peace, interesting. Peace, isn't that interesting? Seek apocalypse, peace. That's crazy. An end of a cycle, and we're going to go through this cleansing, right? This disclosure is like a cleansing. It's what society needs. So the Ovilus just said that. Yep, exactly. I felt the division of two sides a couple years ago, and I think it is here. I hear a lot about the two Earths and stuff meaning realms now, and it makes sense. Absolutely, Chas. Absolutely. Um, and I don't know if how many people have heard of this. It said shop. How many people have heard this about this? But how there was once a planet that existed between the planets Jupiter and Saturn. So, and that planet was named Tiamat, and this planet was actually, I think it was like 4 times larger than Earth, something like that. I think it was even bigger than that. I can't remember, but it was called Tiamat, and it was an Earth-like planet, almost identical. And they said that there was 2 societies within that planet that kind of they had I guess it was kind of like a territory, or they had some type of problem with each other with the 2 societies. So they really fought it out, and I guess they used whatever technology they had to manipulate the sun's energy and cause a micronova or not supernova, but a micronova. Supernova would be a complete destruction of the sun and turn it into a dwarf star. But what happened was they caused the sun to micronova, where it causes this massive solar flare. And apparently, what happened is that it completely destroyed Tiamat, like obliterated it. And part of that effect of that flare affected Mars, and that was during a time when Mars was thriving, apparently, and why it turned into this apocalyptic, high radiated planet. There's high radiation levels on the planet too, caused from that solar flash that just completely wiped the planet out. But it didn't share the same destruction that Tiamat did. Tiamat got obliterated into pieces. Wild caress dinner. Interesting. So basically, that asteroid belt that you see that's seen in between Jupiter and Mars is the remnants of Tiamat. That's in orbit in our solar system, and all those pieces are pieces of Tiamat. And even mainstream scientists are actually saying it's a beast. Mainstream scientists even admit that they can't really rule out the possibilities of that because you really connect it together. It makes a lot of sense. Um, Calcium. So, anyways, in the society, I can't remember what they call it, the Priatomites or something like that. I can't remember. I'm probably thinking of a different species. Um, Heart. I gotta look up what the name was to this society though, this species. But these people from Tiamat left Tiamat and hijacked the moon on Tiamat, hollowed it out, and brought it over to Earth and orbited around Earth as like a station, kind of like a space city, if you will. It's just a hollowed out planet, basically, a small planet, the moon. Um, they to escape Tiamat during that time, but the society that left the moon, because the moon eventually also suffered a catastrophe, had a government just like us, wasn't telling the society within the moon about a catastrophe that was about to happen, which was a micronova, and all like hundreds of thousands, even millions of people died inside the moon from this solar flash. And they crash landed on the moon, and that's where it said some of the satellite photographs of this mysterious large UFO underneath the ice of Antarctica that has been seen. I've seen the photographs as like these holes in the ice, and you see this weird looking UFO or big object, something down there that looks very artificially made. And they say that that is one of the motherships, these big motherships that came down after that event. That to do with using some of those parts from that ship, also using to build Atlantis, which insider information that did confirm that Atlantis was off the western coast of Cuba. I thought it was actually underneath Antarctica for like the longest time until recently the information came about that it's actually up the coast of Cuba, the western part. So I find that interesting. So yeah, that was just the little information about Tiamat. Be short could be short for crystal. Let's see. I got to go back on some of these comments. I'm like way behind. I got so carried away with the information about Tiamat. Let's see. We're going on to almost. I'll probably end up getting off at the 3 hour mark, so we'll stay on a little bit longer. You two people are called to write him about their experiences. Let's see. Anybody have any other questions? We'll be wrapping it up here in a moment. I think we covered a lot of good stuff, especially on the ET topic. If anybody has any, Beth, Bunny R. Beth. I get Beth a lot, and someone that I was deeply close to as when I was a child. That was like another mom to me. She passed away. Her name was Beth. I always wonder if that could be some type of sign from Beth. I always wonder that because that name does pop up on my Ovilus device a lot. But also another thing, I always have to keep my guard up because some of these, you got to remember that some spirits will use your emotions to manipulate. So you got to be careful with it. So when the divine or people like your loved ones want to communicate with you, a lot of times they're not going to probably communicate through a device like this. They're going to have more divine ways to communicate with you. So always keep that in mind. Be careful what you tap into, the spirit box. God forbid if you use a Ouija board, as they're not going to communicate with you through that. So there's going to be a lot more divine ways that they're going to communicate with you, but it's most likely not going to be through most metaphysical devices. Usually it will be something else, or could be some other spirit trying to get attention that maybe isn't a demon or anything like that. It could just be a spirit just trying to get attention and pretending to be that loved one. And that could easily happen. So if you aren't if you don't have the discernment you should have, make sure you get knowledged up and really build that intuition, work on your intuition, listen to your gut. uh when it comes to paranormal investigating, it could get quite dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. um um Thank you, Motocross Girl. I just confirmed. Okay. Let me look at the comments. Edna said, yes, Duran, those that disappeared are the ones that went through the portal and they used them for experimentation. So yeah, Edna, I agree with a lot of that. There's a lot of people that get kidnapped and taken out of our solar system and then they're just long forgotten. But then there's also people that get taken, but they're not really taken for experimentation. They're taken for um they're for an invitation for a mission somewhere else, or that their job was finished here, and sometimes they're just gone. But it's because they're serving another purpose. So, but I believe that a lot of situations, yeah, involve people getting taken and they're either used for experimentations or they're used for our creativity because we're really good creators. We have creative minds. They would take us and enslave us in other planets, maybe. And unfortunately, in some cases, they would slaughter us and use us for food for the reptilians, particularly because Dracos do or tend to eat us. They will eat people. Um, and I don't say that to fearmonger. It's just something that is an actual fact. Um, Probably be able to feel them if you don't see them. Um, yeah, that's definitely, and that's what's important about. I'm gonna turn this off real quick. That's what's important about understanding your intuition and building an intuition is to be able to tap into what's coming through, to understand what's coming through. And that's important. By the way, the energy in this chat has so much healing energy. Does anyone else feel it? Definitely. I think that we're definitely protected, and that is for sure. And in spite of even all of the communication that we got through with things that could mean bad, but we are protected, and and we all appreciate the communication that came through. And I always keep the barriers up. So despite even any of the tarnishing on the pinnacle, um, that is something that does need to be clean, but the protection seal is there. Cleansing with Palo Santo was something that was very important before I started. So I did do that. So we are all divinely protected. So I would not be surprised if everybody feels that. I have a portal in my room. I use my lucid dreams. I go to amazing places in the future and the past as well. It's amazing. Well, that's really cool. I've had really lucid dreams of actually being in places that took place during like Renaissance times. It's really interesting. Woke up in the dream. I literally woke up laying down on grass and got up, and the first thing I saw when I looked up was this huge castle wall. And I'm like, where am I at? Like, and I didn't understand where I was at. And it literally, like, I could feel the rockiness of the castle. Felt like the little green that's growing on the castle wall, the moisture on it, and really turn like going around this wall and realize I see this big opening. It's a big castle gate, and I see this bridge and everything. I see a water stream, see the woods way out in the distance. I see people in like old, like Renaissance looking clothing. It's really bizarre. And um and turns out that years ago when I was having dreams of these, they were astral projection dreams, I think, that were taking a look in the past. And I think that's really interesting because I've had those kind of dreams. I've had dreams being in Egypt too. I've had dreams like I was talking about before, where I was just in this hill of grass and there's just everything was green and alive, and it's really amazing. Let's see, we got let's see, I gotta read down here. Chastity said, I think they are already here among us. To be honest, also there are light and dark souls, more light than dark, but I believe that too, 100%. And they say that there was they say that as far as like ET souls, that there were only like a really small handful, um, like in the thousands range of ET souls on Earth, but there have been so many people, including angels, that have actually projected their energy into wounds, and and were birthed in the physical world that we're in. And so not just ET souls, but angels themselves. And the numbers are in the hundreds of thousands. And I think it reached the millions, according to insiders, that of how many ET souls there are nowadays. And a lot more people are being more aware of that. So there's a lot of us out there, and a lot of us don't know. And that's why it's that knowing is important right now, and the awareness is really important right now. So this huge announcement that's going to be happening soon is going to be so important. Oh yeah, I noticed that. Um, I heard Edna said, I heard of one guy that disappeared at Lake Med. Is it Med? Um, 20 years later, body was found in the lake, but no, don't you think the body would have been too deteriorated? Yeah, that's true. There's things like that. Like it should have been like nothing but dust and bones by 20 years later. Um, there's been mysterious deaths too, and I think that sometimes, you got what was it? I can't remember the name of that mountain. It's in like, I want to say it's in like Russia or something. Um, I can't remember what it's called, but there's this mountain, and it's like really supposed to be like really dangerous and really forbidden for humans to be at. And people, I guess some hikers, like some scientists, went up there, and they were researching some stuff, and apparently they witnessed what was like some type of like orb, I guess. And some say that they witnessed something, and something in the middle of the night scared them so bad. And by the way, this mountain was so cold, like, I mean, we were talking like like negative 50 degrees or whatnot, right? At night, and they're in the tent and stuff, and apparently they cut themselves out of the tent and left like their warm clothes behind running, and there was like a trail of their footsteps running out in the snow. So something had scared them that bad that they left all that behind and cut themselves out of the tent. And their bodies were found way far away from their campsite, and some of them had these radiation burns. Their eyeballs were out of the canals. Their tongues were removed. No wild animals do that. So they actually had these. You could look it up too. I wish I can't remember what the name of the this incident, or I know it, but I just can't think of it right now, and I apologize for that. But there's these photographs of like literally their eyes are not in there, and their bodies were fresh. It's just weird. Like no animal, what animal could surgically remove a tongue? It doesn't make sense. So, and then there's a lot of high radiation levels on them. So there's a lot of crazy stuff, and there was a lot of people that actually, um, like quote suicide happenings with people that got involved in it, with the information of it back then, and a lot of weirdness about that situation. Let's see. Um, yeah, let's see. Yeah, slow. Yeah, that's true. Oh, you just got dizzy? Sorry if I'm reading that really late. It says 1:31. I'm trying to catch up with the chat. Chastity. Uh, well, okay. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting things. You know, I could go on and on about this, but I'm gonna have to close this out. Um, I'm thinking about going. I'll probably end up going live in the next couple weeks, so keep an eye out. There's gonna be a lot of stuff I'm definitely gonna want to cover after this huge event that's gonna happen. So and also um so the topics that I'm going to be covering. So when I start dropping these lives, we're going to be discussing main topics, and then we're just kind of get a little sporadic with a lot of other things that kind of like what we just did. So I'm really appreciating everybody that showed up here and watching the chat. Like, I mean, this is phenomenal. Like, everybody was so supportive. I really appreciate you. And I'm gonna read this real quick. Neutral beings are not bad. Oh yeah, definitely right about that. Definitely right about that, Chess. Do you think that's why there's cannibals? They're Dracos or influenced by them? Definitely a possibility of like the cannibalism being taught by Dracos, and Dracos definitely do that. So it's definitely a teaching of completely causing a society to go ass backwards and into something that negative, into something like that. So yeah, definitely an influence for sure, and a teaching. Same things that a lot of other like negative teachings that they've done that involved certain, you know, sacrificed things like mutilated animals and people. Some of the really horrific stuff, crimes against humanity, definitely taught by Dracos. Some of the worst things were taught by Draco reptilians. It's really crazy. And supernatural beings like demons and devils and stuff. A lot of that all correlates together. So yeah, I'm gonna drop this live right now. I really appreciate everybody showing up, and definitely appreciate you being here. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope to see you next time. So thanks for watching. Happy nightmares, everyone. Bye bye.